Part 70. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 696. Early in the morning, Wu Si-Kwan was working out in the bowling alley wearing yoga clothes. Yates was sitting aside drinking coffee. The cute and reckless sister Wan Wan went for a morning jog. Yates drank coffee and pointed out Wu Qingxi's yoga postures. Not long after, Gao Yingying and Lu Guangming came together. Yates pointed to the coffee on the table. Gao Yingying picked up the coffee with a smile and smiled lightly at the girl doing yoga. "You called us over so early in the morning to watch you do yoga? Even kneading dough is better than yours." Wu Qingxi pressed her legs, bent over and said calmly. "Yesterday Han Jian called and told us that we can test your glorious Tang Wei. It is said that he is licking Lin Zongheng now. I don't understand what Han Jian means." Gao Xingxing pinched his chin and said doubtfully. "If you say that, I don't know what to do. Secretary Ye doesn't know." Yates crossed his legs and drank coffee, shaking his head slightly and said calmly. "I don't know what you are doing now. If you tell me, I might know something." Gao Jishi frowned slightly and looked at Lu Guangming. At this time, Wu Sijuan had already stood up and ran to Yates to tell him about the underground bank. Yates frowned slightly and took out his tablet behind him to look at the information she had compiled. About 10 minutes later, Yates gave the answer. "I'll take a bold guess at what Mr. Han means. He probably wants you to lend money to Tang Wei. Changxiang Group doesn't seem to be rich now. If Tang Wei is contacting Lin Zongheng and the Lin family needs money, he may give it to him. I am just guessing that your bank recommended it to the Lin family." After hearing this, Gao Xingyi and Lu Guangming came over again, and Lu Guangming said flatteringly. "Secretary Xiao, are you telling me something? This makes me feel itchy." Yates glanced at Lu Guangming, narrowed his eyes and smiled. "I can only guess 5 or 6 of Mr. Han's thoughts, and it is something he is willing to let me know. I can only tell you that Mr. Han still has many vacancies on the chessboard." After finishing his words, Gao Jixing spoke. "Secretary Ye can't deceive his heart." Yates closed his eyes and took a deep breath, put down the coffee cup and said calmly. "Mr. Han is going out to sea today. If you two want to know something, you can go fishing with Mr. Han. Maybe you can get some news." Gao Xingyi and Lu Guangming turned around and left very quickly. At this time, Yates stood up, stretched, and patted Wu Si-Kwan on the shoulder. "It's another harem drama, why don't you go and see it?" I can't be biased in my words." "You go prepare a speedboat. Mr. Han likes to be different." Wu Si-Kwan put his arms around Yates's neck and kissed him on the cheek. "Little Yezi, I love you to death." Yates looked at Wu Si-Kwan, who was trotting away, smiled lightly, took out a wet wipe to wipe his face, and took out his cell phone to call Tu Xiao. "Boss Tu, my husband, and several ladies are going to sea today, and may go to Chuihua, so the safety issue will be left to you to worry about. New. Also, Boss Tu, please tell the eldest lady that Mr. Han misses this niece very much. Mr. Han has just recovered from a serious illness. Please ask the eldest lady to go over and bring some laughter to Mr. Han." There was silence on the phone for a few seconds before Tu Xiao replied in a low voice. "Thank you. Secretary Ye will just ask whenever Tu Xiao is needed in the future." "You're welcome." After hanging up the phone, Yates tilted his head and thought for a moment, then called Lu Shenga. "Hello, Mr. Lu, I am Yates." You. My husband is going to sea today. I hope Mr. Lu will not touch my husband's eyebrows at this time. If you are interested, can you accompany him? I sincerely invite you on behalf of my husband. Yates. I know what's going on in your mind better than anyone else. Tell Han Jian. I don't have time. Yates squinted at Wan Fang running back out of the French window and chuckled. Thank you Mr. Lu for your success. I just don't want you to affect my husband's mood in the past. In return, I also told Mr. Liu the news that you seem to have been betrayed. After hanging up the phone, Yates covered his mouth and smiled. I guess this last sentence will make Lucianga think about it for many days, so that's good. Lest you suddenly pop up and cause trouble when my husband goes out to relax. Then the smile on his face disappeared. Yates tilted his head and frowned and whispered. What else do you need to prepare? My husband seems to be a little shallow in calculating favors. Thinking of this, Yates called Changde. She had Cheng Jin's phone number, but she couldn't call or skip the call. When the call was connected, Yates spoke first. I'm Yates. My husband is taking Wu Qingxi to Zhuihua today for filming. Miss Wu's movie will vigorously promote the coastal scenery. I heard that Secretary Niu's daughter went to find trouble for my husband yesterday. I understand. Miss Ye took me to thank your husband. The Yeomanman will do its best to protect Mr. Han's safety and the preparation of the movie. Please call me Secretary, thank you. After hanging up the phone, Yates tidied up his instrument, took a deep breath, left the bowling alley, and drove to the beach. Yates counted the time and waited for Han Qian on the beach. As soon as she arrived, Han Qian arrived shortly after. Looking at the girl standing on the beach with a tablet in her hand, several women whispered that they were envious of Han Qian. Such a secretary. Han Qian smiled, stepped forward and opened his arms. Yates narrowed his eyes and held the tablet towards Han Qian. The Beidou Encyclopedia of Sexual Harassment was placed in front of Han Qian. He glared at Yates, who narrowed his eyes and chuckled. Han Qian curled his lips and spoke. The boat from Qinghu can't come here. Yates said softly. I have prepared the yacht, and now it is sailing here. It can accommodate about 40 people. Han Qian frowned and looked at Yeji, and everyone turned to look at Secretary Ye. How did she guess that the boat from Qinghu would not come today? Looking at the approaching 3-story yacht, Cai Qinghu smiled naively. It's bigger than me. My boat only has 7 or 8 people. Han Qian narrowed his eyes and said again. I'm just a man and you are all women. It's boring. Yates said softly. I have told Vice President Gao, Lu Guangming, Mr. Su, and Mr. Guan that they will come to accompany you out to sea. I will prepare fishing gear and a barbecue has been reserved on the island. Yates, I think. Mr. Han, please wait a moment. Wu Sijuan has already gone to prepare the speedboat. It is almost here, but you can only sit on it, not drive it. No, I want to ride. Mr. Han, based on your motorcycle riding skills, I personally do not recommend you ride a jet ski. Yates. Mr. Han, please don't act coquettishly. I'll go get ready. Secretary Yates went to work. When Nuan and Cai Qinghu stared at Yates's back with wide eyes. Isn't this woman a little smart? This is simply a second clone. Yan Qingqing whispered that Yang Jia and Yates were like raising a pig. When Nuan agreed with this, and then hugged Han Qian's arm and said softly. Husband, please lend me your secretary for a few days. I like it so much that I don't have to do anything and my secretary can know what I'm thinking. Han Qian smiled, patted Nuan's head, and said with a smile. Yates worked as Mr. Yan's secretary. Ask her how she feels, and then we can discuss whether to borrow it or not. Yan Qingqing on the side. She doesn't listen to me either. I can't use this secretary. It's like saying I can raise cats but not lynxes. If I control it well, I'm awesome. If I control it poorly, I'll be stupid. It's the same as warmth. Stupid. Cai Qinghu smiled again. I agree with what Yan Honghong said. Nuan turned around and pouted. Cai Qinghu, can you stop smiling all the time? No. A woman who loves to laugh is hurt by her husband. Oops. It hurts. Yan Qingqing and Wen Nuan grabbed his ears. At this time, the yacht arrived. Han Qian never thought that it was Suliang and Guan Degu who sailed the boat. These two grandsons. Then Wu Siguan's speedboat also came over. Cai Qinghu liked this kind of thing. He said I can drive a speedboat and pulled Wu Siguan to jump on it. Then he watched the speedboat making waves and speeding on the sea. His warm eyes were full of envy. Turning to look at Han Qian lowered his head and pretended not to see it. He couldn't agree to this girl who liked whatever she saw. Wen Nuan's silly and cute personality has become famous in the circle. Not long after, Cai Qinghu came back in a speedboat, waving and shouting to Wen on the boat. "Miss, come on. I'll take you for a ride." Nuan looked at Han Qian again. At this time, Yates appeared behind Han Qian and said softly, "Mrscai can indeed drive a speedboat, and she can also drive a small helicopter. She is very proficient in cars and boats. Wu Qingxi and Wan Fang are very good at water and have life jackets. And I have calculated the recent weather. The daytime temperature is 25 at around 10 degrees, the sea water is not ice-free." After listening to Yates' words, Han Qian nodded towards Nuan. The cruise ship and the speedboat left the seaside one after another. Han Qian took out a cigarette and Yates took out a lighter and lit it, whispering, "Mr. Han, I may have made a mistake." Han Qian looked at the two ships and said calmly, "Oh. Just don't do it next time. Aren't you angry that I made the decision without permission? I'm not a big shot. Everything you do is for my own good. You know what I did." "That's not true." "What do you know?" "Didn't say." A water motorcycle appeared in front of the two of them. Yates took out a wad of bills and handed it to the driver. Then the driver left with hesitation. Yates narrowed his eyes at Han Qian and smiled. "Mr. Han, I played very well." After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 697. A secretary like Yates can only be met, not forced. If Yates must be compared to something, it would be a husky. If used well, he is a capable sled worker. If used badly, he can make his owner angry and have a heart attack. For example, now, Han Qian wants to die. It's all there. If Cai Qinghu is crazy about playing with cars, then Yates is crazy about playing on water motorcycles. He couldn't feel the speed on the sea. Han Qian could only feel the sea breeze hurting his face. He drew an S on the sea again and again. Han Qian felt like he was going to overturn several times, even on the waves. It rose into the air, and then fell heavily. Yates gave Han Qian a thrill that Han Qian would never do again in his life. The water motorcycle was like pebbles thrown out of the water, rising into the air again and again, and falling again and again. Han Qian tightly held the deputy hands on both sides. He did not dare to hug Yates for fear of affecting the husky. Sitting on the boat, Guan Yunbiao's eyes widened with envy and yearning. I want to play too." As for Yan Qingqing, she has already started to look down at her mobile phone and is about to buy a water scooter. Everyone's eyes are full of envy. She comes out just for fun and excitement. Slowly, Han Qian accepted the excitement and joy that Yates brought to him. Yates turned around and rushed towards the yacht on his motorcycle. When he was less than 20 meters away from the yacht, he performed a drift on the sea, turned around and left in a dashing way. Han Qian shouted loudly to the sky. "Yo-ho!" Cai Qinghu stepped on the accelerator of the speedboat and chased the water motorcycle. The splashing waves fell on his face with the sea breeze. His face was warm and flushed. He clenched his two small fists tightly, then raised his right arm and shouted softly. "Crush! What is happiness? Happiness is having someone accompany you to go crazy and misbehave with you." Everyone came out to play for Han Qian, in order to prevent him from being too tired, and in order to prevent him from being unhappy. Yates thought very simply. Han Qian's character may seem mature, but his heart is very young, and he is even said to be so young. A little childish. Stimulation allows him to consume excess hormones, and besides, no one likes the feminine Han Qian. They prefer the straight Han Qian who is more sunny than feminine. Guan Yunbiao couldn't bear it anymore and shouted to Han Qian that he wanted to try it too. Han Qian and Yates returned to the suit. Guan Yunbiao jumped off the suit wearing a life jacket, swam to the edge of the water motorcycle and looked at the water motorcycle. Going further and further away, I finally saw a figure other than the big dog. This guy overturned the motorcycle. Han Qian stood on the deck blowing the wind, and Tong Yao came over with a piece of clothing. Stop getting sick. Han Qian smiled and picked up his clothes and put them on Tanjao. Tanjao tilted his head and looked at Han Qian, and Han Qian smiled. Just don't catch a cold. Nursery rhyme frowned. You think I am you? I can't wear clothes. You idiot. Han Qian frowned and looked at Nursery Rhyme, who turned away and saw that this monster's brain circuit was really different from that of a normal woman. Now when Nuan and Cai Qinghu were going to play motorcycles, Guan Yunbiao was lying on the deck covered with water, and whispered that the water was quite hot. As a result, Han Qian was about to jump in the next second, but was stopped by Suliang, who came over. Although the three grown men sat side by side on the side of the boat and started fishing with fishing rods in their hands, using whatever bait they wanted, and fishing completely by chance, the three of them had no hope of catching any fish anyway. Guandegu looked at the sea water and said softly, "Do you think there can be sharks in this sea?" Suliang said helplessly, "How could it not be?" Han Qian tilted his head and said, "Isn't there a shark-proof net?" Suliang sighed. "Brother, look how far we have come out. That thing is only about 400 to 500 meters away from the shore, but there have never been shark attacks on humans in our sea. Most animals will not be provoked if you don't provoke them. Then can we fall into a shark?" After saying this, Suliang stood up. "I don't want to fool around with you two anymore. It's really affecting your IQ. You two didn't hook up any bait to catch a hammerfish. I'll go get some crab pots and come back to get them in the evening. I am coming too. Take me one." Han Qian and Guandegu were like followers. They followed Suliang wherever he went. The three men ran around on the boat like children. Yan Qingqing sat on the sofa on the third floor and looked at the sea view. Ji Jinghe held a small bottle of beer in his hand and drank it in small sips. After a while, Ji Jing suddenly spoke. "Yang Lan seems to have arrived on the island. Does going out to play this time really not affect your work?" Yan Qingqing lay on the back of the sofa and sighed. "It's a lie to say it won't affect me, but Han Qian wanted to come out and play. I started thinking about not coming, but then I thought about what the hell is the use of making so much money? It's better to be happy with Han Qian. I'll try my best he can't think about it for an hour a year." Ji Jing, do you think women are really stupider than men? Ji Jing stretched out her finger and pointed at Yates, who was chatting with Yu Shisai at the railing on the first floor. Yan Qingqing sighed when she saw this. "I have known Yates for a long time. She is indeed very powerful. She changed the profession of secretary from a tool to the shadow of the leader. If I can guess Han Qian's thoughts when he is laughing and joking, but once he frowns brows, I panicked, hey." Yan Qingqing, who is trapped in the whirlpool of love, can't extricate herself. "Then don't give up. Why do you think so much? I like my eldest nephew. I am different from you. I can accompany him. It doesn't matter if he misses me or not. I am happy when I see him anyway. Look at your useless energy. We have an agreement with Wen Nuan. Hey. I regret not consummating the marriage with Han Qian earlier. Now we are acting like an old married couple, but we haven't done anything as a couple. As soon as he finished speaking, nursery rhyme appeared on the third floor, scolding Han Qian as he walked. Ji Jing frowned and said in confusion. Why did my eldest nephew provoke you? Why did you scold him? Tong Yao raised her head and glared at Ji Jing, saying angrily. Why are you scolding him? 3 people caught a turtle down there and insisted on taking it to the island to play the tortoise and the hare. Do you think I should scold him? Ji Jing closed her eyes and sighed feebly. Yan Qingqing stood up and walked down the stairs. On the first floor, she saw 3 grown men looking at a turtle in a daze. Yan Qingqing stepped forward and slapped each of them on the back of the head, saying angrily. Aren't you afraid of being seen by Wen Nuan and asking if turtles are delicious? Su Liang covered his head and looked at Yan Qingqing, wondering. Mr. Yan, can't you be so exaggerated? Guan Yunbiao whispered. Empress of the East Palace, why don't you give it a try? Han Qian picked up the turtle and threw it into the sea, and whispered back. No need to try, I will definitely ask. Yan Qingqing grabbed Han Qian's ears and frowned. How old are you? Wen Nuan is naive and you are naive too? I would say you two should stop living together. It will affect your IQ. Han Qian lowered his head and said nothing, letting himself be scolded. Seeing this, Yan Qingqing let go of her hand, squatted next to Guan Yunbiao and asked with narrowed eyes. Biozi. Let me ask you something. You said Wen Nuan is the Empress of the East Palace, and I am the Empress of the West Palace. Then who of us can be the queen? Guan Yunbiao trembled, stood up and ran away. Han Qingqing grabbed his hair. Guan Yunbiao quickly squatted on the ground. Seeing this, Su Liang said that he was not suitable to get involved in such things. As a result, Yan Qingqing let out a cold snort filled with evil spirits. Su Liang squatted down again. Guan Yunbiao took a deep breath. Yesterday I watched the stars at night, and the sky was full of stars in a row. One of the stars was so fast that I couldn't cover my ears and stole the bell. It entered through the money hole, but the money was not wet. It rained and the wind blew last night. I slept so hard that I couldn't get rid of the residual wine. Do you know? Do you know, it should be the green, fat, red, and thin, talking about Liang Shan. Looking at Yan Qingqing's smiling face, Guan Yunbiao lowered his head and whispered. Empress Nishinomi Ya. Yan Qingqing narrowed her eyes and smiled, stretched out her hand and patted Guan Yunbiao's head, smiling. That's right. What's the use of those crooked words? Those who know the current affairs are heroes. Even though you look ugly. But I feel beautiful inside. Guan Yunbiao seems to have a kind of magical power. It is difficult for anyone to maintain a normal mentality in front of him. He will always be led astray by him inadvertently. In the end, Yan Qingqing and Guan Jun somehow talked about salmon stewed with potatoes. Yan Qingqing watched Guan Yunbiao frowned. Is there really such a way? According to what you said, is there also charcoal grilled hairtail fish? After saying these words, Han Qian raised his head and raised his hands. I've eaten it. It's made warm, and 3 hairtail fish are burned like burning sticks. Yan Qingqing said excitedly after hearing about Nuan's embarrassing incident. Really? Is it warm enough to go to the kitchen? There were 2 attacks in total, and 2 kitchens were blown up. I'll let Nuan cook tonight. You 3, go ahead and play. Don't always harm the turtles. That thing will be very unlucky if it encounters you 3. The 3 men nodded like chickens pecking at rice. They watched Yan Qingqing go up the stairs and Guan Yunbiao lay on the deck and gritted his teeth. I miss you, Guan Yunbiao, a dignified man of 7 feet. I am not afraid of anything, but today I was bullied by a little girl. I dare not breathe. Brother Han. I am doing this to give you face. If you and Empress Zigong don't know each other, I would definitely kneel in front of her and clean her shoes. Yan Qingqing, who was standing on the third floor of the fence, returned to the sofa with satisfaction after hearing this. Guan Yunbiao breathed a sigh of relief and whispered, "I'm really scared. The West Palace Empress is different from the East Palace Empress. The East Palace Empress has the mouth of a knife and the heart of tofu. Our West Palace Empress has the mouth of a crusher and the heart of a steamroller." Han Qian shut up and said nothing, and Suliang whispered not to be overheard by Mr. Yan. 3 floors. Ji Jing pinched Tong Yao's cheek and smiled with narrowed eyes. "I'm willing to admit defeat, come on. Call me sister. Next time Han Qian and I are making out, I'll send you a video." Tong Jiao's face turned pale with anger, and she gritted her teeth and said fiercely, "Elder sister." Ji Jing narrowed her eyes and smiled. "I said the 3 of them would be afraid of Mr. Yan, right? If you still don't believe me, are you ready to play? Play. Come on, let's compare who has bigger breasts." Nursery Rhyme roared in anger. She ran away and this was no longer fun. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 698. Chapter 693. By the time Han Qian arrived on the island, Wen Nuan and Cai Qinghu had already gone somewhere. The 2 of them were riding jet skis much faster than the cruise ship. The island is considered a relatively famous tourist attraction in Bin County, although it has just passed October. First, there are still many tourists on the island. The island is not big, with a radius of about 5 kilometers. Han Qian got off the boat, and Lu Guangming and Gao Xing walked over. The former opened his arms and hugged Han Qian gently. Lu Guangming said softly, "Sick? Why didn't you notify me?" Han Qian chuckled softly. "It's just a cold. Don't listen to their nonsense. It's not that serious." After saying that, the 2 separated. Gao Fuling handed Han Qian a cigarette, and the 3 men stood on the beach blowing smoke. Suliang didn't like Gao Fuling very much, so he helped Yan Qingqing take the things away, while Guan Yunbiao took the fishing rod to find a suitable place to fish. Gao Fuling was smoking a cigarette and had his hands in his trouser pockets. He didn't look like a vice president, he looked like an old madam. But from any angle, Gao Fuling didn't look like a good person, but there were many women who came to chat with him. These women have a very poor self-perception. She always thinks that she is the last one and thinks that she can change the other person. Little does she know that they are just the person someone said yesterday. Gao Xingxing politely declined to talk to her. In the end, she really couldn't stand these verbose women and blew out a puff of smoke. The face of the woman he was chatting with was now considered quiet. Lu Guangming smiled and joked. "Vice President Gao's charm is really good. If you don't like them, you can introduce them to me." Although Lu is not as capable as Cao, he has the habit of Prime Minister Cao. Gao Xingyi glanced sideways at Lu Guangming and said calmly, "Be careful, one day you die on a woman's belly." He he. Lu Guangming smiled indifferently, and Gao Xingcheng spoke softly. "Master Han, Secretary Yi revealed some news to the 2 of us this morning. Is Tang Wei really hooking up with Lin Zongheng now?" Han Qian nodded and smiled. "I'm not sure yet. I just received some news. Vice President Gao knows that I am close to Yang Lan, right? So I am still a little worried about people like Tang Wei. I also want to test it out. If he and Lin Zongheng is really colluding together, which may be good news for us. After all, there is so much money there. If the Lin family comes to borrow money, feel free to borrow money, but people from the Lin family must come in person. If the information is wrong, we made a small profit and solved Tang Wei in an instant. There was no loss, it was just a little time, and time is what you are most in need of." Gao Jishi nodded. He wanted to ask Han Qian what his plan was for the Lin family, but the less he knew, the safer it was. Like Wei Tiancheng back then, he always felt that Han Qian was a snake spitting out information. Then Han Qian Xiao asked Lu Guangming how his plan to create humans was going, and Li Guangming said with a smile that he was working hard. Then the three of them left. Lu Guangming went to find the target of his beauty hunt. Gao Qianxing called to find a suitable person to be the spokesperson of the underground bank, and Han Qian continued to enjoy his hard-earned leisure time. The Wooden House Hot Spring Hotel in the center of the island has welcomed a group of guests who are not short of money. Generally, most tourists coming to Zhuihua will come in the morning and leave at night. Very few stay in the hotel. The main reason is that the prices here are too expensive. The Wooden House Hotel has 2 floors, similar to a Japanese apartment. Jijing and Yang Lan were lying on the sun loungers outside the hotel, enjoying the warm autumn Sunday. They were wearing sunglasses and sun protection clothing, holding small bottles of Tsingtao beer in their hands, talking and laughing. Both of them have a good drinking capacity. Han Qian can't find anything that Aunt Ji can drink. As for Yang Lan, Han Qian has never drank with her. According to the news brought by several girls, it's almost like that regardless of the consequences of life and death. Han Qian appeared behind the 2 mature sisters and chuckled. What can I possibly do for these 2 beauties? Jijing was so familiar with Han Qian's smell and his voice that she whispered that she wanted to eat something and was a little hungry. Han Qian smiled and said that he would come over and prepare some barbecue for her, and then looked at Yang Lan, who smiled. Find me a boy. Sister Yang Lan was intellectual and graceful when she was not drinking. Now she is no different from Hu Sunyang in water margin. Han Qian pretended to be shy and said coyly. You see, do you see the small success? No. I can't tell when I'll die. Okay. You rest, I'll prepare something to eat for you too. There are only 7 or 8 people in this hotel. Basically everything is self-service. After paying the money, the store will teach you what it means to do it yourself and have enough food and clothing. The store has prepared a lot of fishing tools, and there are also user manuals and some tips. These have nothing to do with Han Qian. He doesn't catch fish. Han Qian has swung the club dozens of times in the past year. He has never seen a fish, let alone fishing. As soon as he walked into the hotel lobby, he saw Wen Nuan, Qian Wan, and others fully armed and about to start their fishing plan. Han Qian curled his lips at Wen Wen and spoke to remind him. Just play at the beach for a while, don't go in. Nuan waved to Han Qian with his back. I know, I'm so verbose like an old lady, I'm annoying you to death. Then Qian Wan asked Han Qian if he wanted to play together. Han Qian glanced at the harpoon in Tong Yao's hand, raised his hands and shook his head, fearing that the monster would stab him to death at once, because you can't predict what the monster will say next. And what's the next move? And how many girls would wear a one-piece fishing leather jacket and water boots to go fishing? Han Qian went to the store and asked for pot and beef. Although Han Qian, the grandson, was reluctant to spend money, he was very willing to treat Jijing and Yang Lan. He ordered 2 pieces of the best beef. This pound of meat is not cheap. He was carrying the small basket, returned to the yard, lit the fire and poured oil into the pot to fry the meat. The 2 women lay on the chairs and looked at Han Qian. Yang Lan narrowed his eyes and smiled. I want it medium rare. Jijing whispered that she wanted it cooked well, and Han Qian turned to the 2 women and smiled. I'm not sure how cooked it is. In fact, I'm better at braised beef. For this steak, I'll do it. Mr. Han, you can go and rest for a while. Yates appeared next to Han Qian unnoticed. She was holding a bottle of red wine in her hand. All the words were in English. Han Qian couldn't understand. Yang Lan smiled and said it was a good thing. Yates poured the wine into it. After decanting the wine pot, he sat opposite Han Qian and started frying the meat with tongs. Han Qian looked at the steak in the pot, glanced at Yates again, tilted his head and said in confusion, "Don't you know how to cook?" Yates flipped the steak skillfully and said calmly, "It's true that I can't cook, but I know a little bit of Western food. I have studied it. Mr. Han is better than me in life, but when it comes to these useless things, I'm better than you. I know how to sauce beef." "Okay, okay, Mr. Han, you are awesome. If you have a child, maybe you can compete with your child." Han Qian was a little embarrassed by these words. He turned his head and pointed at Yates, looked at Yang Lan, and asked with a frown, "Sister Yang, do you believe her?" Yang Lan took the decanter and sniffed it, then said softly, "Anyway, I'm more trustworthy than you. I was just talking to Jing about whether you would cut the beef into slices and bring it to us." Han Qian did think so. He stood up and took a sip of red wine, then frowned. "What can I drink from this sour thing? Mr. Han, please go out for a walk." Yates really couldn't stand Han Qian anymore. Jing smiled and said that when Yates met Han Qian, he was like a scholar meeting an officer and a soldier. He couldn't explain why. Han Qian glared at Jing and asked in a low voice why he was an officer and a soldier. Yang Lan on the side smiled. "Ha, Han Qian. I heard that Secretary Ye has received professional training. She is like a versatile peacock, and you are like a crowing rooster. Let a peacock serve a rooster. You think this counts? What's up?" She was not as tactful as Jing. Han Qian glared at Yang Lan and whispered, "The steak is mine." Yang Lan stood up and pushed Han Qian's back, smiling. I know, we will thank the cow before eating. As for you, go wherever you should. You have lowered our style." Han Qian leaned back and frowned. "Sister Yang, you are trying to kill the donkey." Yang Lan narrowed his eyes and smiled. "Are you leaving?" "I don't." The next second, Yang Lan grabbed Han Qian's neck and pushed him back. Han Qian did not dare to resist, so Yang Lan easily knocked him down on the cobblestones. Then Han Qian lay on the ground and started rolling. "Ah! I can't live anymore, it's too bullying." Then Han Qian was pulled up by Yang Lan, and he knocked him down again the next second. This time he didn't fall to the ground. Yang Lan dragged Han Qian's body and smiled with narrowed eyes. "Are you leaving or not? Do you dare to fight me just once?" "Afraid of you." Yang Lan let go of Han Qian, but Han Qian ran away, shouting as he ran, "I calculated with my fingers, there will be a bloody disaster today. We will fight again in the future, and say goodbye." Han Qian ran away, leaving Yang Lan holding her stomach and laughing. At this time, Yates's steak was almost ready. He put it on the plate and garnished it. When he got 2 glasses of red wine, he handed it to the 2 women and chuckled softly. "Manager Yang, I envy the sibling relationship between you and Mr. Han." Yang Lan took the plate and said softly, "Thank you Secretary Ye for the steak. It's a pity that I don't have a brother, only a sister." Yates smiled and shook his head. "You're welcome. Mr. Han seems to have a bad relationship with his relative sister. You and Miss G can chat slowly while I leave first." "Secretary Ye, walk slowly." Yates disappeared from the sight of the 2 people in the direction in which Han Qian disappeared. Yang Lan cut the steak and said softly, Jing, you may have another love rival." Jing smiled naively. "Oh. The steak is good." Han Qian's calculated bloody disaster came true. Worm's fingers were scratched by shells, and one finger was wrapped like a pillar by Yan Qing. He sat on the beach with a small bucket in his hand and watched everyone playing in the sea. Judging from her expression, she was very unhappy. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 699. Wen Nuan was unhappy, and it was Han Qian who suffered. Several girls were waiting in a puddle left by the low tide to scratch. Han Qian overestimated nursery rhymes and underestimated Cai King Hu, and his understanding of Yan Qing Qing has not changed. Miss Cai struck quickly and accurately. After catching the fish, she grabbed the fish tail and smashed it on the stone. She would have lost half her life even if she didn't die. Han Qian's eyes twitched as he watched. As for the nursery rhyme, it was no longer good. Now the water has filled her. The leather jacket floated on the water like a rubber ball. She gave up. Yan Qing Qing was even more ferocious. She caught crabs and octopuses with her bare hands. She didn't know what it meant to be afraid. She chased Jianwan in the water with an octopus in her hand. She was so scared that Jianwan screamed, "Not like a company boss at all. Look like. After all, she is still young." Han Qian stretched out his hand and touched the sea water. He felt that the temperature was okay. It was very good to have such a day in October. Han Qian turned around and lay on the rock, with his head on his warm legs. He closed his eyes and rested. The warmth was low. He looked at Han Qian with his head tilted and whispered, "I heard that octopus can be eaten raw." Han Qian opened his eyes, glanced at the girl, and said softly, "Is there nothing else on your mind but eating?" Wen Nuan lowered his head and looked at Han Qian, smiling naively. "And you, I just want to eat. I can't talk to you about work when we go out to play. You don't have any hobbies, so I can't talk about cosmetics with you. I don't use them very much, and you can't understand them." Han Qian sat up, pinched his warm face, and smiled. "What you say makes sense, but you can only eat cooked meat. I can't accept eating any meat raw, and I'm not prepared to let you accept it. Then I won't eat it. What do you think about Changxiang? Are you really planning to take it back and give it to me? In fact, it's not necessary. It's good to have a company to make some money and free up wealth. What you do is too much. I'm tired and feel a little distressed." Nuan leaned on Han Qian's shoulder, and Han Qian sighed. "Both of us don't care about money, but even if I let Changxiang go, Lin Zongheng's family won't let me go. Instead of talking about these unhappy things, I'll tell you a joke." Wen Nuan sat up and covered Han Qian's mouth. "I don't listen to the old monk telling stories to the young monk. You are not an old monk, and I don't want to be a monk. Han Qian, I feel like I am getting lazy. What should I do?" Before Han Qian could speak, Yan Qing Qing came over, holding a conch in her hand and smiling. "You won't be lazy after a good beating. What are you two talking about here? Let me listen." Wen Nuan snatched the conch from Yan Qingqing's hand and was about to smash it open with a stone, Yan Qingqing said quickly, "There's nothing inside. Can you act like a normal woman, Nuan Nuan?" Nuan raised his head and looked at Yan Qingqing, frowning. "Do you think a normal girl can play with you? Look at my hands and you know that I have a cut on my finger. I didn't know that. I thought I was a paraplegic. Go, don't bother me and my husband while I'm chatting." "Ah!" Yan Qingqing sneered. At this time, Guan Yunbiao, Gao Jishi, and others came over. Lu Guangming held a fishing rod in his hand and called Han Qian to go fishing. How could he not fish when he came to the beach? Han Qian stood up and followed several women. Nuan thought for a while and did not follow. However, Tanjio stopped soaking in the water and went back to change clothes noisily. There was no reason to catch fish here and cook. 5 men sat in a row on the boat, holding fishing rods and smoking cigarettes. Han Qian sat in the middle. Yates squatted aside to help him feed him, and softly told Han Qian the knowledge of sea fishing. Han Qian listened. He was in the clouds and foggy, and his eyes were full of confusion. Lu Guangming, who caught fish one after another, smiled. "Secretary Yan knows a lot, doesn't he?" Yates smiled softly. A compulsory course for secretaries. The place to discuss business is not limited to the hotel table. It will be useful to learn more knowledge. Mr. Liu can also ask your secretary to read more and take classes. After saying this, Suliang on the side smiled evilly. Director Liu's secretary must be very beautiful. Several women laughed at the words, and Lu Guangming shook his head with a smile. Don't look at me as a lustful person, but my secretary is really not pretty. I just want to play and make fun. I can't be careless about making money. Besides, my daughter is now in charge of the company. I have a secretary to drive. That's great. How about Xiao Liang, come and be my secretary. Gao Xincheng picked up the fishing rod and cursed with a smile. You old ghost are poaching our glorious people in front of me. Be careful, Mr. Yan will come to fight for you. Her baseball bat is not a decoration, huh? Si Guan is here. Everyone turned to see Wu Siguan walking over with a fishing rod, sitting next to Lu Guangming and preparing to fish. Lu Guangming frowned when he saw this. We old men are fishing, why are you here to join in the fun? Go, play in the mud. Wu Siguan ignored Lu Guangming and shouted to Wan Fang and Shan Shan, who were riding motorcycles, to go play and not make trouble here. After the two girls left, the scene became quiet, and they were all fishing quietly. Half an hour later, Han Qian took out a cigarette, and Guan Yunbiao beside him suddenly spoke. Damn it! Why are you just teasing your dog brother? As soon as he finished speaking, the guy took off his clothes and jumped into the sea. Han Qian's eyes widened and he forgot to light up his cigarette. Not long after, Guan Yunbiao showed his head in the water, and he really caught a fish as long as an arm. Look! It weighs about 2 kilograms. Suliang took out the fishing net and took the fish from Guan Dagu's hand. Guan Yunbiao climbed onto the boat along the butt of the yacht, took the cigarette from Han Qian's mouth and said with squinted eyes. Damn it! Is my bait bad or something? Gao Xincheng said softly. What are you hanging? Just fish in the sea and hang small fish. Suliang smiled. The cigarette butt he hung up, ha 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 ha. It's not the fish that's teasing him, it's him that's teasing the fish. After saying this, Guan Yunbiao knelt down, hugged Suliang's shoulders and smiled. Hey, buddy, this fish is over 2 pounds. Let me look at yours. It's so bright. Your fish is not as big as Vice President Gao's bait. Ha 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 ha. Everyone burst into laughter, and Suliang looked at the small fish in the fish basket awkwardly. It was indeed a bit small. Later, when she was fishing, Yates kept looking at Han Qian. Apart from hanging bait, she kept looking at her boss, her eyes fixed on him, her beautiful eyes full of emotion, and she wondered if she should take Han Qian to the hospital. When they were about to return home, Wu Siguan turned out to be the one who caught the most fish. Lu Guangming asked Wu Siguan suspiciously if he had been drugged. Lu Guangming regretted what he said and slapped himself in the face. Gao Jixi frowned. It's a disaster if you don't know what to say. Wu Siguan handed the fish in his hand to Lu Guangming and said softly. You cook tonight, otherwise your friends will have nothing to do. In the final statistics, Wu Siguan had the most, followed by Lu Guangming, Guan Yunbiao, Gao Jixin, and Suliang. As for Han Qian, he didn't have any. He let go of all the fish he dropped, so Yates thought about taking him to the hospital for brain treatment. After returning to the boat and disembarking, Yates asked Han Qian softly why he released these fish. Doesn't it feel bad to release them after sitting there for so long? Han Qian put his arm around Yeji's shoulders, with most of his body pressed against hers, and sighed. I just feel bad, they are going to die. I am a very strange person. I can accept any meat, but I can't see the scene when they die. Miss Ye smells so good today. Yates showed Han Qian the Baidu encyclopedia that he found on sexual harassment and frowned. Mr. Han, I think you are pretending to be compassionate. You are not a kind-hearted person. According to my understanding of you, when you attacked Fenlun and Go de Peo, you wanted their lives. In the 8th district, I think it's Monkey 2's tragic situation. Han Qian grabbed the tablet and turned it off directly, smiling. I'm also very curious. I have compassion for animals, but I'm not so kind to human beings. Of course, it's for some people. Why didn't I kill Wei Tiancheng? Why didn't I kill Tang Wei? In fact, I have many ways to make them. The world disappeared, but I still didn't make a move. Besides, let me tell you, I didn't kill Gu Pao. I've never killed anyone. Yates glanced at Han Qian and said calmly. If you dare to stretch your claws forward a little, I will bite you. Han Qian took back his hand and said with a smile. Accident. Mr. Han, what do you like about Anan from the capital? Her appearance is not as warm, her temperament is not as good as King Hu's, her intelligence is not as good as nursery rhymes, and her sensibleness is not as good as Ji Zheng's. Why? Is the money-spreading boy getting sick again? The hand holding Yates's shoulder pinched her cheek and said softly. I can see the sadness of the little people. I started committing crimes for money. What I sold was the innocence of my life, and Anan wanted to sell the innocence of her body. So you are greedy for other people's bodies. With your brain, let me ask you, do you think you are better looking or Anan is better looking? It must be me. A woman's confidence. Did I touch you when we were sleeping in the same bed? Yates grabbed Han Qian's hand and threw it aside, then kicked Han Qian's calf hard and said angrily. You think I'm not as good as Anan? Han Qian covered his back and gritted his teeth angrily. You can't think of anything else in your mind except what a secretary should do? Come on, stay away from me. Yates crossed his arms and snorted coldly. You lost at fishing, remember to cook tonight. Han Qian waved to Yates. Go, 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 go. Yates held the tablet and left. Suliang and Guan Yunbiao appeared on the left and right, looked at each other, put up cold arms and started running towards the seaside. This time Han Qian panicked and said quickly. Brother. Two eldest brothers, everything is Xiao Qian's fault, please stop making trouble. Plop. The two of them turned around and left calmly, hiding their merit and fame. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 700. This time, Han Qian has someone to play with. 5 people play poker, blindly guessing their accomplices. It's a lively game played by 5 big men, because if you win or lose $1, you will blame your accomplices for making the wrong card, and they will also think that annoyed by being played by that traitor. Even Gao Guangming, a mature man, began to roar and ask Lu Guangming if he knew it. If you don't want to play the game, get out and replace him with someone else. Lu Guangming's reaction was indeed much slower. After the card game, he didn't realize that Gao Xingcheng was his accomplice. There are already piles of coins in front of Han Qian. He does not accept transfers, change, or banknotes. If you don't have coins, go down and someone will come up. Anyway, the island is so big and there are only so many coins. If you ask someone to send them over, then some of him are too persistent. In the new round, Guan Yunbiao didn't play a single card and looked at Lu Guangming quietly. Play. Play whatever you want. If you have any cards, throw them away. Seeing that he was about to win, Lu Guangming smiled and started playing cards continuously. When the last card was left, Guan Yunbiao stretched out his hand. Stop. There's only one left, right? 5 of hearts. I know you also have a 5 of hearts in your hand, 3 eights, 4 tens, a hook, a circle, a 2, and a 9. Looking at the biggest big five left in his hand, Lu Guangming's mentality collapsed and he roared that Guan Yunbiao was targeting him. Lu Guangming couldn't accept that he was the weakest one for a while, so he yelled in the room. The atmosphere is quite lively. Ji Jing, who was sitting outside, closed her eyes and sighed helplessly. Yang Lan pouted. How can a person who is almost 200 years old in total be so lively playing poker? As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Guangming opened the door in his slippers, glanced around, and then ran to the boss to change coins. When he came back, his face was red. He rushed into the room and started a new round of quarrel. Seeing this, Ji Jing sighed again. Childish. Yang Lan agreed deeply, then took out a coin and threw it into the air. When it fell, it accurately followed the collar and landed in her underwear. Yang Lan was busy reaching in to get it. At this time, Han Qian opened the door and sneaked out. Yes, she leaned closer to Ji Jing and whispered. Aunt Ji, do you have any coins? Ji Jing smiled tenderly at Han Qian. No. Lan Lan does, ask her for it. Han Qian turned to look at Yang Lan with his back to her, not knowing what he was doing, and asked softly. Sister Yang, I remember you holding a coin in your hand and playing with it. Give it to me quickly. I want to go in and make a comeback. Yang Lan turned around and took out a hard pen from his collar, and handed it to Han Qian with a blushing face. The latter held the warm pen and whispered. Sister Yang, your wallet is pretty good. After saying this, Yang Lan became angry and embarrassed, and Han Qian ran away, opened the door and shouted. I, Hu Sanyan, am back. After a while, Han Qian was kicked off the table, and Wan Fang rolled up her sleeves and started playing cards. 4p.m. Wu Siquan couldn't help but stand up when he heard Nuan's stomach growling. If you're too embarrassed to go down, I'll go. Wu Sijuan went downstairs and pushed open the door of several men. When he walked in, he almost thought someone had set off smoke bombs here. The fairy mist was lingering. Han Qian returned to the table. 5 men had cigarettes in their mouths and squinted their eyes. Looking at the cards in his hand, Suliang was playing cards alone, and the 4 of them were waiting for the opportunity. No one said anything. Even when dealing with Li Dehai and Wei Tiancheng, they were not so serious. Seeing Suliang quietly put down the last card, a quarrel broke out in the room. Han Qian looked at Gao Xingchen with disgust and frowned. Why don't you stop me when you have 4 aces? If you stop him, I'll just fly away. What's the point of him having 2 kings? Gao Xingchen glared at Han Qian and said angrily. I know you have 3 flies. My youngest is 3k, can you handle it? Guan Yunbiao frowned. Where are the 2s? I think Xiao Liang only has 2 2s. Where are the remaining 2s? I don't have any. Lu Guangming weakly raised his hand and said awkwardly. I have 5, and I'm not willing to take them apart. The 3 of them glared at Lu Guangming and said in unison. Go cook. After finishing his words, Wu Sijuan shouted loudly to the 5 men. You all go and cook. We women are waiting for you at home, but when you go out to play, you still wait for us to cook. Several men turned to look at Wu Siguan at the same time. Wu Siguan was a little timid at this moment. Then he looked at the 2 women behind the girl. Han Qian was the first to stand up and put on his slippers, followed closely by Lu Guangming. He was not afraid of this. 2 women, he was a little afraid of Wu Siquan, the little goblin. Suliang was lying on the arhat bed and said calmly. I won't accept the coins and leave them to you to make chips at night. As for the meal, I won't go, okay? Han Qian turned around and said angrily. Pretending to be struck by lightning. Guan Dagu nodded in agreement. Dry thunder. Lu Guangming chuckled. After all, I won. After the words fell, the 3 people glared at Lu Guangming and said in unison. Because you're a bad guy. Once a man puts aside business and only thinks about playing, their IQ is only 8 years old, and the coins here are only more than 200 yuan, but a few of them care more about face than face, and they will speak loudly if they disagree with each other. Scold. Lu Guangming said with a naive smile. Play after dinner, play after dinner. Go cook and cook. Lu Guangming hugged the three young people and went out. When he walked out, Tong Yao had already brought aprons and handed them to them, telling them that the ingredients were all in the hall. Lu Guangming looked at the three of them, and before they could speak, he raised his hands and said repeatedly, I'm going. I'm going. Remember to take one with me tonight. Han Qian's expectation that Lu Guangming and Gao Jishi were cooking was not what Han Qian had expected. The hotel kitchen was also rather awkward. The four gentlemen discussed it and cooked outside with pots in hand. Guan Yunbiao chopped firewood and washed vegetables, and Lu Guangming took a kitchen knife and changed it into a knife. Load. The people in charge are Han Qian and Gao Qingcheng, the former is in charge of vegetables and the latter is in charge of seafood. When Nuan and Sun Ya sat on a bench and watched the men cooking, it was not unexpected that Gao Qingcheng knew how to cook. He was born in an ordinary family. Lu Guangming's knife skills surprised everyone. Not long after, Yang Lan and Ye Ji also came over. Yang Lan bent down behind Nuan and held the girl's neck, and said softly, I didn't expect Mr. Lu to be able to cook, but his knife skills are pretty good. Nuan nodded, and just as he was about to speak, Lu Guangming smiled first. When you go out to play, you can't care about those who are there or not. They are all acquaintances, just cooking. Don't think that I, Lu Guangming, am a person. I dropped out of junior high school and left school to work as an apprentice in machine tool engraving. I make bread in a bakery and in the kitchen. I've done heavy lifting in the kitchen, twisted steel bars at the construction site, printed in the printing factory, and done all the dirty and tiring work, including chopping vegetables. I still miss it a bit. Gao Xingcheng said calmly, holding the pot in his hand. If I don't want to play poker at night, I won't take you with me. Han Qian has said that he will talk to us about the plan when we play cards at night. Lu Guangming laughed naively after hearing this. Big dog. Here comes the food. Han Qian knelt down, filled in some wood, and said with a wry smile. When did I promise to tell you about the plan? It seems like I hid it from you, and you didn't even ask me. Do you want me to tell you now? Gao Fuxing showed his signature smile, and Lu Guangming said. No. I don't have the heart to chop vegetables now. The several men worked together in cooking very well. Guan Yunbiao prepared various accessories and occasionally helped cut vegetables. Gao Jingcheng was wearing an apron and a hat. The pot in his hand had already started to catch fire. His performance was indeed very calm. The first portion of spicy fried clams came out of the pot. Gao Xingyi put it on the plate and smiled at Sun Ya. Bring it over first to cushion your belly. Mr. Wen, can you try my handiwork? Sun Ya stood up and took the plate, smiling warmly. That's embarrassing. He said this, but he was unambiguous in his actions. Han Qian looked at Gao Xingxing with sweat on his forehead and smiled. He didn't expect that he would become close to Gao Xingxing's concern. Back then, the two of them could talk about it in the company. It is incompatible with water and fire. Gao Jingchen calculated against Han Qian several times, and Han Qian calculated against him once, which was considered even. Besides, Gao Jishi is very smart. He will bully the weak, but he will never attack a stone with an egg. After a while, Gao Jishi looked down at the few poor crabs in the bucket. He raised his head to look at Han Qian and said softly. So much. Didn't you say that many people went to arrest them in the afternoon? Han Qian shrugged and said calmly. Do you expect them to catch crabs? While talking, Suliang came over on a beach motorcycle. Looking at the bucket behind this guy, Han Qian remembered that he had dropped it when he went to sea. Seeing Suliang bringing a bucket full of crabs, he smiled warmly. The meal in the evening was very sumptuous. A long table was full of people. Men and women sat alternately. The girls who had not eaten for a day were already hungry. After a brief greeting, they started to eat. There were crabs, shrimps, fish and other seafood on the table. They are all caught by themselves, so they can be eaten with confidence, Gao Xing'ai said softly as he ate a crab as big as the palm of his hand. You don't want to eat? Han Qian shook his head. I don't really like seafood. Gao Xing'ai mumbled while eating crab. You are very strange. You live by the sea and don't eat seafood. You are capable but don't like making money. There are so many girls who like you and you are not sure about the relationship. Han Qian. There is a saying that I don't know whether to say or not. Han Qian turned to look at Gao Xing'ai with narrowed eyes and smiled. Improper. A few men didn't drink. They ate a few bites in a hurry. They seemed to wink and stood up one after another. They continued to play cards. The remaining women at the table were eating and drinking. Ji Jing still didn't talk to Sun Yat. She had a good temper, but she holds a grudge. Drinking wine with Yu's poems may be one of Yang Ian's few hobbies. In the room, 5 people started a new round of fighting with poker cards in their hands. 1 coin represented 200 yuan, 50 coins per person, and they would settle the bill tomorrow morning. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 701. My recent plan is very simple. The first step is to verify where Linmend got so much money to buy the shares in Nuan's hands in one go. The price of Nuan's shares is enough to buy 40% of Chang Xiang's shares. Even if the Lin family had savings, they wouldn't have so much, right? A 9. Han Qian was holding a cigarette and talking about his plan while playing cards. Lu Guangming, who was next to him, threw out a 10 and said with a frown. Do you think Linmend embezzled the company's public funds? What then? It was Han Qian's turn to play his cards, holding a cigarette in his mouth and smiling. I recently asked people to buy the Lin family's shares. When the number reaches the same level, Linmend will panic and be afraid. I have 2 ways prepared for Linmend. The first way is for him to take the initiative and be afraid of the person who bought the shares. The mysterious man slowly accumulated more shares than he did, and he once again purchased these shares at a high price. The second way was to wait for me to enter the Changxiang board of directors when this move was mature, and apply to inspect the company's accounts. If Linmend used the company's money if it is not made up for more than 3 months, I will let this chess piece sue him. It will take more than 3 years but not more than 10 years. Take your time. Gao Xing'ai frowned slightly and said doubtfully. What if he didn't use the company's money? Han Qian answered with a smile. He must have used it. If he still had money in his hand, he wouldn't ask Wei Tiancheng for the 10 million to gamble. Of course, what you said is also possible. When the time comes, we will sell the shares and we won't lose a lot of money. The business is with risks. Han Qian threw out the last card and said again. Our bank is prepared for Linmend. As long as he takes money from the bank to plug the holes in the company, then Honor, Shunchang, Chang Rong, and Lo Group will jointly attack and suppress Chang Xiang's business, and he will not be able to pay back the money. Just use the shares to offset the debt. The shares he bought for 150, I will offset the debt at about 90. Add in the chess piece acquisition, and I will become the biggest antique in Changxiang. It will be easy to deal with Linmend by then. I hope Niu Qiudong I will help Linmend at this time, so let's move together. After hearing Han Qian's plan, Gao Jingcheng was still a little worried. At this time, Li Guangming spoke. Han Qian, how do you conclude that Linmend will definitely use the company's assets? Han Qian smiled. Simple. When I captured Wei Tiancheng, I proposed to sell Nuan's shares and take Wei Tiancheng away for a day. Wei Tiancheng knew many secrets about Linmend, and even these secrets could bring down Linmend, but he, instead of agreeing on the spot, he agreed to not trade on the spot at the risk of collapse the next day. There are two explanations for this. Linmend went back to find someone to solve the problem, or he went to prepare funds. I guess Linmend thought about it in his mind and got it. As for Wen Nuan's shares, he is the absolute controlling shareholder of the company, and then takes over the business in the tourism industry. I guess you will think so too, right? Lu Guangming nodded. Gao Yuchen smiled and had no reaction. Han Qian shuffled the cards and said again. He wanted Niu Qiudong to facilitate him, and I took this into account, contacted Nuan in advance, and tried to find a way to establish a relationship with the Zhao family. I asked Zhao Hanqing to back me up and facilitate the Zhao family. I am just a favor. Zhao Hanqing will tell his family about my situation in Binhai after he returns. The Zhao family will not owe me this stupid favor. They will solve the current troubles they are encountering. So, Niu Qiudong was scolded by the province. Linmend was interviewed, and the tourist area won't be able to get a share of the cake. His holes can't be blocked. After saying that, Han Qian smiled as he looked at the cards in his hand. I'll beat the four of you by myself. Just after he finished speaking, Lu Guangming put down his cards and frowned and sighed. Brother, please let me digest it. According to what you said, recalling the scene when you and Linmend met that day, you caught Wei Tianken's handle, and your decision to let Nuan leave Changxiang was not a temporary plan. Your plan started from you. Did you prepare before the injury or after? Han Qian also put down his cards and smiled lightly. Before. What I originally planned to use was the chess piece of Luo Shen. Lin Zongheng came to me and Lu Shenga to discuss planning to kill Luo Shen. The conditions he gave were very tempting. Lu Shenga and I both agreed, but later I suddenly felt that there was not much benefit in cooperating with Lin Zongheng, so I chose the current plan. That's it. Luo Shen provided me with a very useful information, and Wei Tiancheng also exposed his flaws, which made my plan succeed. Lu Guangming sat up and looked at Han Qian and said seriously. What's the result? What is the result you want? You take the money, I take the enjoyment, get rid of Linmend, the highest share of air rights in Binhai City belongs to us. Do you think this is a benefit? Everyone makes money, and it is not a good habit to eat alone, such as Linmend. Lu Guangming stood up, stretched, picked up the poker in his hand and smiled. Even if there is no development of the tourist area, he can still get the land in Dongcheng. Han Qian smiled. For some reasons, the control rights of the land in Dongcheng have returned to my hands, so Linmend has no chance to invest in Dongcheng. As for other urban areas, Warm Changrong also focuses on real estate development and competition, and now he gets it from the bank. The Dongcheng community developed by Jian has not been completed yet, the bank will give him money. Let's play the game slowly, our poker must continue. Han Qian's plan had Linmend nailed. Unless another chaebol like Luo Shen appeared now, would Linmend want to make a comeback? It's harder than climbing to the sky. But don't be too hasty and torture Linmend slowly. He is old and Han Qian is still young. He played until late at night, because he would start working normally tomorrow, so Han Qian left the room early to go back to rest. Han Qian was not sure which room was occupied now, so he could only let it happen and pushed open the first room. It was Wen Nuan and Yan Qingqing. Han Qian quietly closed the door, and when he pushed open the second room, he found that the door was locked. By this time, everyone who should have slept was almost asleep. After searching for rooms in succession, Han Qian found an empty room. He took off his clothes and went to bed. Half asleep and half awake, the door was pushed open. Han Qian, who had experienced many dangerous experiences, suddenly opened his eyes. Then he watched the figure getting closer and closer. When he got closer, Han Qian was relieved. It was Ji Jing. Aunt Ji lifted the quilt and was hugged by someone as soon as she lay on the bed. Just as Ji Jing was about to struggle, Han Qian whispered, "It's me. I didn't know you were sleeping in this room." Feeling the hand on her lower abdomen, Ji Jing turned over with a blushing face, looked at Han Qian, and whispered, "Why are you here? Lan Lan will come back from taking a shower later, get out quickly." As soon as he finished speaking, Yang Lan opened the door and walked into the room. The drunk Yang Lan took a shower and lay down on the bed to sleep. Fortunately, there are two beds, otherwise this would be really big trouble. Yang Lan didn't sleep. Han Qian didn't dare to move. Slowly, Yang Lan began to breathe evenly, but Han Qian didn't want to leave. He hugged Ji Jing's soft body. Ji Jing pushed Han Qian's chest with both hands, biting her lips and shaking her head in refusal, but Han Qian didn't care so much. Turning over and holding Ji Jing's shoulders, Yang Lan, who was sleeping in the clinic, spoke just as she was about to open her mouth. "I'll make room for you too." As soon as the words came out, Ji Jing suddenly pushed Han Qian aside, and Han Qian got out of bed, picked up his pants and ran away. This is so humming embarrassing. Yang Lan didn't even sleep. The seascape at night was dim, with clouds and moon in the sky, dotted with stars, and the sound of the waves seemed to lament the hard-won beauty. Han Qian sat on the sofa and looked at the sky, with tears in his aggrieved eyes. Not so unlucky. Look at the protagonist in the novel and movie. His body is shaken, and all the girls throw themselves into their arms. But he is good. There are many girls around him, but none of them can eat or touch them. Life is never that hard. Looking at his second brother who was not up to par, Han Qian waved his hand and slapped him. The next second, he curled up on the beach and grunted like a dead dog, unable to get up. He saw a pair of crabs crawling in front of him. Han Qian grabbed a handful of sand and buried them both. Out of sight, out of mind. Yu Shisai, who had some insomnia at night, was running around the island at night. She saw a very strange person with his head on the beach and his butt raised high. Yu Shisai frowned and walked forward. After careful observation, he frowned and said, "Han Qian. Don't call me by my name." Yu Shisai trotted forward and squatted beside Han Qian and said eagerly, "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Should I take you back to the hospital now?" Han Qian turned over with difficulty and lay on the sofa, taking a deep breath. He didn't pay much attention to the fact that there was a stone underneath. "My balls hurt like hell." Looking at the dawn, Han Qian really cried this time, choking up pitifully. "I have never seen anyone so wronged as me." Yu Shisai sat next to Han Qian and sneered. "You went into the sea and got caught by a crab." "I beat myself." Han Qian turned to look at Yu Shisai, then closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "Can't you just find a boyfriend and start a relationship? Are you going to never get married in your life?" Yu Shisai nodded seriously. "Yes. If you don't get married, marriage is too scary. My parents fell in love, got married, separated, and lived together for most of their lives. When Nuan married you, got divorced, and now wants to remarry. It feels so troublesome. It's okay to have met a good man. What if you meet a domestic violence man? What if you meet an evil mother-in-law who gives birth to a child and needs to take care of it?" Han Qian stopped talking. Yu Shisai reached out and pushed Han Qian's shoulder and whispered. Yu Shisai sighed faintly, raised his head and looked at the sky. "Han Qian, if you reject me, I might really find someone to marry and fall into the arms of other stinky men. Remember to find someone handsome." Han Qian. Are you not attracted to me at all? No desire at all. My heart is so excited. I have desire. Let's go then. Don't go. Why? My balls hurt. There is no response, he doesn't move. Okay. If you touch us, we won't be finished. After saying this, the girl started to take off her clothes. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 702. Chapter 697. Return. Apathetic. Except for Han Qian, everyone else was very energetic. This time he did not ride a jet ski or catch turtles. He lay on the deck and thought about life. After getting off the boat, everyone went home to rest. Han Qian went to work on the contrary. Life requires busyness. When you are full and warm, you think about sex. When you are hungry and cold, you feel like stealing. I don't know who said this, but it makes a lot of sense anyway. After returning to the general department to check on his work and asking if he had anything to do, Han Qian called Yates. Come get me. Secretary Ye, who had just returned home and changed her clothes, was so angry that everyone felt bad. When she got off the boat, she even said that she would not be allowed to follow him today. When she got home, she started to feel desperate just as she was about to lie down for a while. After getting in the car, Han Qian went straight to the Lagos Ford store, chose a car priced around 1.5 million, told Yeji about the finances of Yeji, and then threw the key to Yeji and told her that in the future drive this car to pick her up. As for the little BMW, just drive it when you have nothing to do to buy groceries. The sudden delivery of a car made Yates confused. Then Han Qian asked Yates to take him to wash and buy clothes. He changed into a brown floral suit, and Han Qian went to buy a pair of glasses. Instantly changing from a gangster to a gentleman, Han Qian sat in the driver's seat and said softly, "Call Yang Jianfeng from Jinxi Fuzong Group and tell him that I want to meet with him today." Yates took out his tablet and started looking for information about Yang Jianfeng, while searching. This Yang Jianfeng is one of Chang Xiang's partners. He is very close to the Lin family. Where are we meeting? To Jinxi. Do not ask me. Yates took out his mobile phone and dialed the number of Fuzone Company. After a brief negotiation, the other party's front desk told Yates that he needed to make an appointment. After hearing this, Han Qian took the mobile phone and said angrily, "Tell Yang Jianfeng that if you don't want to crawl home tonight, just wait for me at the company. My name is Han Qian." After finishing the conversation, Han Qian hung up the phone. Then he thought about it and took out his smartphone to call Niu Qiudong. The call was quickly connected and Han Qian spoke straightforwardly. "I don't know why your daughter called me a few days ago. We are now in a clean relationship. If Niu Xiahua is harassing me, the short-term peace between us will be broken." Niu Qiudong glanced at Han Qian's mobile phone number and said in a deep voice, "Comrade Han Qian, please pay attention to your words. I have no relationship with you, and there is no relationship between us. If you have difficulties or misunderstandings, I hope we can still meet to resolve them." Han Qian sneered. "Ha! Solve it? First explain the 2 bullet holes in my shoulder and then solve other things. Niu Qiudong, you don't think I don't know anything now, do you? Why don't you burn a few pieces of paper on Feng's Haida's first anniversary? Don't you feel guilty? I have to deal with Yang Jianfeng first now. Let's play slowly. You must not let Feng Lun be caught, otherwise the game will be boring if it ends early." After hanging up the phone, he threw the phone to Yates and said, "Call my father-in-law and find out more about this Yang Jianfeng. There is no such thing as being polite and then attacking, or humming his uncle first." Yates sighed, turned to look at Han Qian and said helplessly, "Mr. Han, can you not implicate Zaijuihua's anger on others? Isn't it just poetry that tortured you at the beach all night? Isn't that all? Han Qian turned around and roared. As for it? I tell you. As for it, I am a bloody young man, and she gave me a striptease. Then she told Nuan early in the morning that I asked her to do it, otherwise she would throw her into the sea, and I will be scolded by Nuan for an hour. A whole hour. Yates looked a little embarrassed when he mentioned this matter. Everyone knew that Yu Shixi deliberately teased Han Qian, but they couldn't criticize Yu Shixi. In the face of this kind of thing, women have a natural advantage. The most important thing was that Ji Jing, who came to the beach to look for him, saw it. From the beginning to now, Aunt Ji didn't even look at Han Qian. How can you not be angry about this? Yates, and when she chatted for a while, hung up the phone, and then said, Mr. Han, let's talk about this. You should direct your anger at Yu Shixi, not Yang Jianfeng. He is innocent. Just now your father-in-law said that Yang Jianfeng is a good person, but his ears are soft. What's going on? I can really curse someone with a poem. In our land of 9.6 million, she only has 2 friends in total. Her parents and relatives are not here, so I pointed my nose and scolded this little girl. Done. You can't scold you if you are wrong. Just like you, I won't scold you even if you act like a monster in Binhai City. I will go to the capital and scold you in front of your parents. A lonely little girl has no one to rely on. I make people cry to make me, Han Qian, look awesome. Or do I look like I'm powerful? That only shows that I'm incompetent. I'm angry in my heart and I don't want to express it to the people around me. As for other people, it's bad luck for them. Yates didn't even know what to say about Han Qian. Should he call you a good person or a bad person? In the end, it only came down to 3 words. Bad guy. Yates covered his forehead and said weakly. Is this the reason why you quarreled with Niu Qiudong? Mentioning Niu Qiudong, Han Qian calmed down. Just as he was about to light a cigarette, Yates snatched it away and told him that he had been smoking for half an hour. Han Qian clicked his tongue and said softly. It's not because I have anger in my heart towards Niu Qiudong. Now all Niu Qiudong's sufferings are caused by Linmend and his son. The more silent this old guy is, the more panicked I become. I want to see if I can make him anxious and find a small gap to pry. Gang, Niu Ziahua did call me the day before yesterday. I had a high fever and didn't receive the call. The call was displayed for more than 10 seconds. I was worried that she affected Nuan's mood. Mr. Han, you love Dongwen very much, right? I don't love anyone. I don't know how to go about my relationship now. What qualifications do I have to love others? I don't even have the word love in my heart. The word responsibility is enough. I will be indebted to warmth all my life. My mother is alive and I can breathe free air all because of warmth. I am also very grateful to Yan Qingqing. I am grateful to everyone. Give me the cigarette, I am a little irritable. Han Qian was indeed very irritable. Yates lit a cigarette and stuffed it into Han Qian's mouth without speaking. Jingxi City is an old city. Binhai used to be under Jingxi's control and was separated only 20 or 30 years ago. Han Qian quickly arrived at Fuzhou Company and frowned at Yang Jianfeng when he got off the car. I've seen you. Yang Jianfeng is already 50 this year. Although he is still young, his hair is already gray. He trotted forward and held Han Qian's hand, saying enthusiastically, Master Han, just call me on my mobile phone. The little girl at the front desk is ignorant. I have already scolded my daughter-in-law's sister. Has Master Han eaten? Let's find a place to have a meal and talk slowly. Han Qian shook his head. No need to spend money, just use your company cafeteria. I'm just a white-collar worker in the company. I'm not so squeamish. I came to talk to you about cooperation. Young Master Han actually mentioned something serious, So I have to ask one more question, which Binhai company do you represent? Changrong, Glory, Shunchang, Yezai Pavilion. Master Han, let's book a hotel. The food was served quickly in the hotel. Accompanied by the senior officials of Fuzone Company, Han Qian took a bowl and gulped down the food, saying vaguely, "You can call and ask Lu Guangming and the others. If you don't believe it, I'll eat something first." "Miss Ye, tell them." Yates stared at Han Qian with wide eyes, frown, and gritted teeth. Han Qian showed his head and spoke again. "I forgot to mention, this is Yates, my secretary. You can just call her Secretary Ye. I am the only one who calls her Miss Ye. She is the manager of Yashai Pavilion." Yates was about to explode. "You Mr. Han, you didn't say anything to me when you came here, what do you want me to talk to them about now?" But now that he was forced to do this, Yates had to bite the bullet and speak. Fuzone Company's business in Jinxi is very large, including building materials, shopping malls, hot spring hotels, and real estate development. Moreover, this Yang Jianfeng smelled the influence of the internet celebrity anchor. The benefits brought by it and the generous rewards have won many big anchors. There are only 2 people eating here now. Yates bravely talked to Yang Jianfeng, and several times talked about current projects that he could cooperate with, and they all had business conflicts with Chang. Yates was a little afraid to speak now, worried that it would affect Han Qian's plan. But Han Qian just ate and said nothing. Yang Jianfeng was a little hesitant, as if he didn't quite trust Yates's words. At this time, Han Qian was full, burped and smiled. "I have no other intention in coming today. Fuzone Group has always had business cooperation with Changxiang. What I mean now is very simple. From now on, we will stop business cooperation with Changxiang. The existing cooperation contracts will not be renewed after expiration. 4 companies in Binhai City will reach business cooperation with your company, and 5% of the profits above Changxiang will be given to Fuzone Group. I guess my father-in-law has already contacted you, right?" Yang Jianfeng nodded. "When Shu did contact me, but now I can't see any bright spots in Changrong Group. The company is not mine personally. If the cooperation is suddenly cancelled, it may. I'm giving you an opportunity to cooperate with Rockwell Group. Young Master Han, this." Lu Hu is adding another one. "Young Master Han, this is not a matter of the group, but of me." Bang! A crisp sound interrupted Yang Jianfeng's words. The dark thing was placed on the dining table and Han Qian said calmly, "Lin Zongheng can know about me, and I can also know about his. Lin Zongheng called you half a month ago and asked your Fuzone Group to move into Binhai City to form an alliance with Changxiang, and promised to Longhui Tourism Development Zone I'll give you a piece of cake. You Fuzone agreed to this very happily. Do you want me, Han Qian, and you to be tough? The conditions I gave are already very tempting. I also tell you bluntly, I want to touch Lin Mend. You choose enemy or ally." Yang Jianfeng looked at the pistol on the table, closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "Master Han, can you explain the origin of this gun?" "Okay, my wife is Cai King Hu, the leader of the inspection team of the Provincial Procuratorate. She was given a gun by Feng Lun and others in Binhai City because she hooked up with the cannon. She is downstairs now. Can I call you up to talk to you? Let's talk about why Fuzone Group can obtain such resources in Jinxi City. I promise. 5% profit point, but I will not cooperate with Liu's and Luo's groups. Fuzone is too small to afford this giant Buddha." Han Qian put away his gun and said calmly, "You really don't mean what you said. Binhai Dongcheng will develop real estate again next year, and the one who wants to build Dongcheng is the Luo Group. Fuzone is a brand in our province. I hope Mr. Yang can start with a helping hand. Don't do it. Let outsiders think that our 2 sister cities of Binhai and Jinxi have no companies that can compete." Yang Jianfeng looked embarrassed, lowered his head and whispered. Young Master Han, I'm worried that Luoxi will look down on our rich clan. Han Qian took out his cell phone and called Luo Shen, then threw the phone to Yang Jianfeng. The phone number of Luo Shen, the heir to the Luo family. You can ask me if Han Qian can be her master in Binhai. It's just a short-term cooperation. Changxiang can last for up to 3 years before changing people. If you still want to get the cooperation if. Yang Jianfeng didn't answer the phone, hung up directly and said softly. Master Han, you should give me a guarantee. Han Qian stood up, stretched, yawned and said. Wen Shu, who founded Changxiang, is my father-in-law, the head of Changrong Group is my ex-wife, the speaker of Glory Group is my mother-in-law, the richest man in Binhai City is my mother-in-law, Cheng Jing calls me son, Qian Ling calls me little Qian, Zhao Hanking and I call each other brothers, Tu Xiao's daughter calls me uncle, Guan Yunbiao is my brother-in-law, Lu Guangming's Shuncheng was saved by me, and I have the upper hand in breaking up with Feng Lun. Mr. Yang, do you still want me? To what kind of guarantee is given to you? Li Jinhai from Binhai City is my second uncle? Luo Shen from the Luo Group recognizes me as his savior? Xiao Wu from the Lu Group calls me brother Qianer. I don't know what kind of guarantee you want. What? He stood up and took Yeji out. When he walked out of the door, he turned to look at Yang Jianfeng, narrowed his eyes and smiled. I messed up Binhai City. You don't have to cooperate, but I hope you can ask the entire Jingxi city not to lend money to Changxiang. If I knew, I would have Guan Yunbiao and Kui Li come to visit you in person. Forget and you said, Li Dehai was driven out of the country by me, Wei Tiancheng exchanged Huishan for his life, my name is Han Qian, Han Xian's Han, humble Qian. A strange sentence appeared in Yang Jianfeng's mind. If Han Xian could be humble, would he die at the hands of a woman? After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 703. After leaving the door, Han Qian vomited with a cry. Yates was busy patting Han Qian's back with water. Han Qian felt that his internal organs were about to vomit out. Yates patted Han Qian's back and whispered softly. I didn't sleep last night, and I haven't eaten anything, and I'm eating greasy food. My Mr. Han, can you pay attention to your body? Han Qian covered his chest and shook his head. As long as I can't die, Miss Ye, I want to eat ice cream. Buy. If you want to eat fire Kirin, I'll buy it for you. Get in the car first. The domineering attitude he had in the hotel just now completely dissipated. Han Qian leaned on the chair with his eyes closed and smoked a cigarette. Yates glanced at this desperate man. She knew that Han Qian was not just pretending, but that he did not want to be in their presence. The aura just now exuded in front of him. Not to mention Yang Jianfeng, even Yates, who had seen many big scenes, felt nervous at that moment. Why did this little ancestor carry a gun when he went out? Thinking about this problem, Han Qian took out his gun and pulled the trigger against the glass. Bah! Yates was stunned, and Han Qian chuckled. I picked it up at the beach last night and stuffed some mud into it. The weight is almost the same as the real thing. Hee hee. Miss Ye, look at the gun. Yates, who had his face sprayed with water, stopped the car on the side of the road and slapped Han Qian twice on the shoulder. Han Qian was beaten so badly that Yates got out of the car to buy ice cream and brought a pack to Han Qian. Cigarettes and a can of Red Bull. He took the gun from Han Qian's hand and crushed it on the ground. Are you just using this thing to scare people? What if someone finds out? Han Qian shrugged and whispered. Then I'll give him a real one, Miss Ye. Think about it, who can we ask to reimburse the money for this car? Yates got into the car, started the car and drove onto the highway, and said calmly. I'll reimburse you. Mr. Han, aren't you going to sleep? Han Qian ignored Yates and stared out the window in a daze. He reminded Yang Jianfeng today that he didn't know if this guy would be able to get on the road. After thinking about it, Han Qian fell asleep. Yates slowed down slightly and found an intersection. After getting off the highway, she wanted to go back to Binhai slowly and let Han Qian sleep for a while. Only an hour later, Han Qian suddenly opened his eyes. "Miss Ye, have you secured the land for the villa? It's almost time to start construction. It's best if you build a plank road to connect it with Longhui. Is the glass plank road expensive? Huh. Why are you taking the national highway? It's slow here. Mr. Han, I beg you, can you get some sleep? I can't sleep because I have something on my mind. I'm wondering whether I should go back to Binhai to see my father-in-law, or go to Cheng Jin's place to have a chat. And how do you and Wen Nuan separate the villa? I guess you should manage it. But do you have so much time?" Yates didn't speak and drove slowly. Han Qian kept nagging for a while and got no response. He sighed and closed his eyes and continued to sleep. After entering Binhai City, Yates spoke. "Mr. Han, are you hungry?" Han Qian opened his eyes drowsily, looked at the familiar city, and shook his head. "I don't have much appetite. Send me to Changrong. You can go home and rest." Yates took a look at the time and found that it was already 3 o'clock. He sent Han Qian to Changrong, and then walked away. She still had her own things to be busy with. Walking in Changrong group, looking at the familiar sister at the front desk, Han Qian I was a little surprised that the front desk staff at Changxiang followed Wen Nuan to Changrong. I took a look at the planning department on the 9th floor and saw some of the plans that Changrong was preparing. It seemed pretty good. I had to ask the old man for details. Holding a cigarette in his mouth, he pushed open the door of the 10th floor office and saw Li Jinhe sitting on the sofa. Han Qian hurriedly hid the cigarette behind him and said with a naive smile, "Mom, you are here too." The layout of the office has changed. The south window facing the door has been replaced by an antique Chinese-style window. When she sits in front of the floor-to-ceiling window on the east side. The desk has also been replaced by a Chinese-style one, and a set of desks are placed in the middle of the office. The Chinese-style sofa occupies 2/3 of the office. Li Jinhe glared at Han Qian and frowned. "You know how to smoke every day. What good does that do to your body? You can't leave your mouth now. Your father also smokes one cigarette after another after he comes to the company. What's the point?" Han Qian put out his cigarette and scratched his head with a smile. When she, who was sitting doing work, took off his glasses and frowned. "When a child comes, what do you always say about him? When he doesn't come again, you should think about the 2 children." After saying this, Li Jinhe glared at Han Qian and said angrily, "Do you dare to come?" Han Qian smiled and walked forward and stood behind Li Jinhe, squeezing his mother-in-law's shoulders and smiling. "How dare you? Come here every day from now on." Li Jinhe looked at Wen Shu provocatively, and the latter curled his lips and continued to read the document. Li Jinhe pointed to the sofa and asked Han Qian how he felt. Han Qian whispered that he was too mature. "Can Wen Shu bear it?" Li Jinhe curled his lips after hearing this. "She doesn't know a thing. She doesn't mind giving her a pig's nest. You really can't let Wen Nuan throw away this good thing you bought by the pound. Buying furniture based on pounds." This was the first time Han Qian heard about it. Li Jinhe told Han Qian eloquently about Chinese-style decoration. In the end, Han Qian and Wen Xiao agreed that Wen would not lose furniture, and she might not come to the company at all. The 3 of them know better than anyone how lazy Wen Nuan is. Listening to Han Qian's stomach growling, Li Jinhe stood up and said to prepare something to eat for the 2 of them. After the mother-in-law left, Wen Nuan patted the table and stretched out his hand. Han Qian was busy taking out a cigarette. The 2 blew the smoke and Han Qian was stunned. Had a cup of tea. Dad, have you read the plan of the villa that Chang Rong and Yezeg collaborated on? This plan was made by Yates. I don't know much about the villa. Just when she was about to take the cup, the boy raised his head and hummed him, when she frowned. Villa? I don't know about this yet. I'll take the time to ask the manager of the planning department. Did you run over to trouble Yang Ji Unfeng today? I heard you even threw a gun in front of someone. Why did you take that thing with you when you went out? Although you said it was no big deal after being found out, your mother and I could suppress it, but isn't it troublesome? Please be careful next time. Han Qian pulled up a chair and sat opposite his father-in-law, smiling. Toy guns, you're scaring people. Now I'm starting to help Nuan make a plan to regain Changxiang. You can't say that Yang Ji Unfeng messed up for me, right? Dad. Yang Ji Unfeng seems to be a bit powerful in Jingxi. He behaved so well today. It's all fake. When she nodded, then curled his lips and said contemptuously. The retired secretary of Jingxi is his sister's ex-husband. The divorce is not due to emotional discord, but because this ex-brother-in-law has another daughter-in-law. They just don't have a marriage certificate, but they still live together. You said that Yang Ji Unfeng has a wife in Jingxi, no status? But it's just hanging on. Jingxi's leadership team has changed most of its people, and once it's cleared up, it won't have any resources. It's so dark. Looking at it this way, I think Cheng Jin is a good official. Cheng Jin is a good official, but he is not tactful enough. After marrying a good wife and getting to where he is today, it will be difficult to move up. He also knows that without a son, his daughter has no interest in the Yamanman. Now it's a broken person. It's best if you can take the first step. There is no regret whether you can retire or go home. If you can push this person, push him. Not to mention that he can be like Niu Qiudong to the Lin family. He will also be of some help to you. His name, it's okay to use it to bluff people. After a while, Li Jinhe came back, frowned at the cigarette butts in the ashtray, snorted coldly and surprisingly did not lecture the two of them, put down a few lunch boxes in his hands and went back to the sofa to invite his sisters to play mahjong. Han Qian ate his food and whispered. Hey? Dad, let me ask you something, why does Niu Qiudong have such a good relationship with Lin Mend? What is the relationship between the two of them? When she looked embarrassed for a moment and hesitated, not knowing what to say. Seeing this, the mother-in-law on the sofa said coldly. What's the relationship? The third shareholder of Changxiang was Niu Qiudong's childhood sweetheart. Niu Qiudong thought that this woman was of no help to him, so he married someone else's daughter. Things are messy here, so don't pry. Oh. Han Qian understood what was going on. In total, the third shareholder who married Lin Mend was the one who led Lin Mend and Niu Qiudong. Niu Qiudong felt guilty? Han Qian couldn't guess the details. After eating a few mouthfuls of rice, Han Qian handed Wen Xiao another cigarette. Wen Xiao said calmly after taking the cigarette. I heard that you and Luo Shen forced Zhang Xian to sign an unequal treaty in the coffee shop. Xiao Qian, they are all my old friends. Don't be so tough next time, you're ancien. After saying this, Li Jinhe stood up and said angrily. What's wrong? Wenshi, let me ask you what's wrong? If Xiao Qian doesn't take action, how can Zhang Xian keep the 10% in her hand? She still has the nerve to call you and cry. Xiao Qian, don't pay attention to your dad. What kind of friend can't you? It's a friend. If she regarded your father as a friend, she wouldn't have accepted the 4 million from you. She got an advantage and acted like a good girl. And Wenshu, do you think Xiao Qian is wrong when a woman cries? When she frowned and replied. How dare you do this? Can you not interrupt when Xiao Qian and I are talking about business? You don't understand, so go ahead and play your mahjong game. Li Jinhe pinched his waist and said angrily. I don't understand? I don't understand, but don't forget, our Xianyuan has been the vice president of Changxiang for 4 years because of my mother's nonsense. What help did Qian have? Now Xiao Qian has an idea, but she, Zhang Xian, is unwilling to cooperate. This is because Xiao Qian wants to know you and Zhang Xian, otherwise he will take the 4 million and promise the future rewards. You are doing it for you. Is it difficult for your old sweetheart to not care about our children? When she turned pale with anger, pointed at Li Jinhe and said tremblingly. I don't talk nonsense about whether we are compatible or not. After I met you, no woman would dare to talk to me, when she. Do you think you're pitiful? Now I'm going to call you and find some big girls to take care of you. You are unreasonable. When she, what do you mean? I'm unreasonable? Divorce. Li Jinhe, are you saying it again? Dad, Mom, don't quarrel. What's the big deal? Dad, I promise to be more respectful to your friends in the future, Mom. I will never do anything that damages the reputation of your sister Jinhe. Don't quarrel. Yeah, Xianyuan and I haven't figured out our marriage yet, won't it be a mess if you two get divorced? Li Jinhe glared at Wen Shi and gritted his teeth angrily. Do you want to divorce and marry Zhang Xian? Wen Shi stood up and trembled with anger. It was you who initiated the divorce. What did I say about me? That's what you're thinking. Seeing that he could no longer suppress his anger, Han Qian hurriedly called Nuan. Come to the company. My parents are getting divorced. What? Are these two old guys crazy? After saying this, Han Qian quickly covered his phone, but he was still a step too late. Both Wen Shi and Li Jinhe were staring at the phone in his hand. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 704. There was a lot of noise, just because of this little thing. Han Qian stood in the office without daring to say a word. Husbands and wives often quarreled. If Han Qian opened his mouth to persuade at this time, the quarrel might become even more violent. Wen Shi's hair was already messed up. If Han Qian hadn't stopped him, Li Jinhe might have to pull out all this hair. But Wen Shao has one advantage that Han Qian will never learn in his life. He didn't say a single curse word, and he didn't fight back when his hair was pulled. He only spoke 4 words. Incomprehensible. In fact, what the father-in-law said is right. Zhang Xian and he have known each other for 20 or 30 years. They are classmates and colleagues. When Han Qian was sick, he put aside what he was doing and came to see the child. The father-in-law was right. Sister Jinhe is not wrong. Women are all petty. If Lu Guangming is here today, his woman will definitely not quarrel because she doesn't like her and doesn't care. The two of them had just calmed down when Wen Nuan, wearing pajamas, pushed open the door and entered. Who wants a divorce? I have experience. Come on, I'll take you two to divorce. Li Jinhe turned around, grabbed the paper cup on the table, threw it at Wen Nuan, and said angrily. Little white-eyed wolf, do you have any right to speak here? Get out. I don't. Nuan Wen said hard, but this body was already hidden behind Han Qian, showing half of his face and sticking out his tongue at Li Jinhe, then looked at Wen Shi and whispered. Old Wen, what are you two doing? Li Jinhe spoke first. Your father is having an affair and will give you a brother soon. When the words came out, Nuan's eyes widened and he exclaimed. Really? What's your name, Wen? After saying the words, Han Qian turned around and hugged Wen Nuan. Li Jinhe smashed the paper cup filled with water on Han Qian's back and said angrily to Wen Nuan. Why are you so excited? I finally understand. I am the only outsider in this family, right? After half an hour, the family calmed down, but Wen Nuan still couldn't escape the beating. Li Jinhe pinned her down on her legs and slapped her on the butt several times. The beatings made Wen Nuan cover her butt and dare not sit down. Han Qian glanced at his phone. It was past 5 o'clock and he had no time to talk about the company. He asked his mother-in-law in a low voice if he wanted to go out for dinner together. Li Jinhe had no objection. Then Han Qian turned to look at his father-in-law and said softly, "Dad, want to eat roast duck?" Nuan raised his hands and shouted, "I agree." When she looked at her daughter with doting eyes and smiled. "Then let's eat roast duck. Xianyuan, what kind of car did you drive here? You didn't drive Qianwan's McLaren. Your mother refused to get out of the way and came here on an electric bike." Han Qian was slightly embarrassed, and then Li Jinhe said angrily. He walked up and secretly took a sip of liquor. "Can I let him drive?" When Nuan was also embarrassed, Han Qian lowered his head and whispered, "Mom, you and Dad are driving together? I'll take Xianyuan on my bike." When Nuan pouted and whispered, "I don't make electric cars. You ride, take me." When Nuan smiled, took out the key from Li Jinhe's pocket and pulled Han Qian downstairs. On the way out, he threw the McLaren to Li Jinhe. Li Jinhe glanced at Wen Shi and frowned. "Are you really ready to let me drive?" Wen Shi stood up and whispered, "Stop driving. It's too scary. Don't argue in front of your children again. It's so embarrassing." Han Qian was riding a small electric bike, and Nuan stood on the back seat with his hands on Han Qian's shoulders. The bike was riding very slowly, and the girl smiled and sang loudly. "I'm looking up. There is a dream floating freely on the moon. This tune has gone to the sky," Han Qian chuckled. "You don't have to look up to watch a dog." Nuan hit Han Qian on the head. "You know nothing. Hurry up and ride. I spread my hair deliberately and it didn't even blow up." "No. Okay. You don't know our McLaren." When Nuan turned her head and realized that Li Jinhe was looking at her with a pair of angry eyes. She was so frightened that Wen Nuan quickly sat in the back seat. Li Jinhe pointed at Wen Nuan and gritted his teeth. "When will you sing like me? The art troupe's mother gave birth to a daughter who can't sing. Don't say you are my daughter when you go out. Sit tight for me. Otherwise, I will throw it in the trunk for you." Wen Nuan, who was sitting in the back seat, retorted softly with a pouted mouth. "I can't stretch my legs when I sit down, it's uncomfortable. It's sawed." "Huh. Wenshu, why are you driving so fast? I haven't taught this little white-eyed wolf a lesson yet. How can anyone stand in the back seat of an electric car? How dangerous it is, and you don't even tell me, you're—" In the end, I could only see the butt of the McLaren and couldn't hear the voice of Sister Jinhe's lecture. Passing by the supermarket, when Nuan asked Han Qian to stop the car, went in and bought 2 lollipops, gave one to Han Qian, and sat in the back to eat the lollipops. Lollipop shook his head. "Master Han, where are you going?" Han Qian turned his head and looked at the man greeting him in the car, laughing softly. "Take my wife to have dinner." "Master Han, please slow down. It's getting cold. Wear more clothes." As the car drove away, Wen Nuan asked curiously, "Who is it?" Han Qian smiled. "I really don't know him. He probably knows me. I don't know his kind of relationship. I often meet people like this. I'm used to it. I'm recognized by others when I'm in the capital. I know about Wu Siquan's rumored boyfriend. What's going on with that Anan? Are you planning to develop her?" "Nonsense, I'm just trying to imitate my wife's rescue and see how it feels psychologically." "How does it feel?" "I don't feel anything." "That was different." I felt it at the time. How do you feel? Well, we're getting married. Then you buy me a $2.50 diamond ring. Diamond ring? I haven't asked you yet, where did your ring come from? Huh. I just realized, Han Qian. When did you start wearing floral suits? I remember I bought one for you, and you were beaten to death. If you don't want to wear them, give me your glasses. Han Qian took off his glasses and handed them to Wen Nuan, saying softly. You bought me a pink suit on purpose to retaliate against me? Am I crazy? I went to Jinxie today and bought a suit of clothes and a car for Yates. Brother Qian, I also want to change my car. What to change? Just buy it. Get out of here, like a shoebox. Han Qian. What's wrong? Shout. Oh. Han Qian. What's wrong? Shout. Oh. Han Qian. Winter is coming soon. It's my birthday soon, but you have never given me a birthday. Your birthday is in May, almost a year away. Straight man. Aren't you afraid if I bend? Thinking about Han Qian becoming gay, Wen Nuan couldn't help but shiver, hugging Han Qian's waist and pressing against his back, thinking about life. The four members of the family ate dinner fairly peacefully. The only thing that was not peaceful was that Han Qian wrapped the bread with onions and stuffed them into Wen Wen's mouth. Wen Wen was so angry that she stormed out on the spot. She wouldn't eat even onions, let alone onions. Wen Shu wanted to drink some, but none of the three agreed. In the end, he ordered 2 bottles of beer. It was not Han Qian who drank but Nuan Wen. Wen Shu seemed to be in a much better mood. He told Nuan Wen that he could take a break recently and he went to drink. Active activities stretch the muscles and bones. He was almost rusty at home. After dinner, Nuan drove Han Qian home. On the way, Nuan said. What's going on between you and Yushasai? Han Qian knew that Nuan would ask about this, so he shrugged and said calmly. I don't know what to say about what you saw. She is different from Yan Qingqing and Cai Qinghu. Ah. Xiao Nuan. I have a headache. I haven't slept for 2 days and 1 night. It would be strange if I don't have a headache. If I don't come today, where will you go? Han Qian tilted his head, thought for a while, and said softly. I should go to Yates's place. I learned 3D Max while I was recuperating at home a while ago, and I was thinking about making a rendering of the villa. Nuan turned around and slapped Han Qian on the forehead, saying angrily. Go home. Go home. Go home. I don't want to be a widow yet, and you don't have enough time. Why are you working so hard? Don't you think sleeping is a waste of time? When Nuan stepped on the accelerator to go home, grabbed Han Qian's collar and pulled him in the door, threw him on the bed and started to take off his clothes. In the end, Han Qian was left with only his underwear. Wen took his cell phone away and said angrily. Sleep. I'll beat you if you don't sleep. Han Qian huddled under the quilt, looked at the warmth, and whispered. Give me the laptop, I want to see the information. No, your eyes are like rabbits. You can only sleep today. If you don't sleep, talk to me about you and those women. I can't sleep. Han Qian. There was no reply. Nuan turned around and saw that the sky had begun to breathe evenly. He was too tired. He bent down and kissed Han Qian's forehead and said softly. Good. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 705. Unknowingly, it has already reached 700 chapters a few days ago. I also got my first alliance leader, Mr. Hanfan, the leader of sex embryos. I also want to thank my brother Meng for his support all the time. I would like to say hello to my brother Meng who urged me to update in the group. There is no reward, I try not to be lazy. When Xiao was in charge of Changrong, laying the foundation for his daughter and building momentum for Changrong. Wen Xiao's name was more useful than advertising. Wen Xiao, who had nothing to do in his spare time, began to act like a monster. After breakfast early in the morning, when Han Qian went out to work, Nuan also followed, and Mei Ming said she would send Han Qian to work. As a result, when we arrived at the company, this girl walked faster than Han Qian. When Han Qian walked into the general department, he found that Wen Nuan was already sitting in his seat and started tinkering with the computer. Su Yang pointed at Wen secretly, and Han Qian shook his head helplessly. Shaking his head, he walked behind Su Yang and looked at the work on the computer, and said softly, "How come the shopping mall matters also fall to the general department? Shouldn't this be the matter of the planning department?" After finishing her words, Yao Shui sighed. "Don't mention it. In the past, our general department was called a handyman. Now our general department is really called a handyman. Everything from the planning department, sales department, operations department, and marketing department will be sent here. I now think that I am all-powerful. Got it?" Han Qian frowned and pointed at the door of Yang Ian's office. Yao Shui closed her eyes and said weakly, "I also want you to ask." After finishing his words, Lu Zhuolong stood up, patted Han Qian on the shoulder, and said softly, "Don't ask your sister Yang. She is also very confused now. She doesn't know what Mr. Yan is thinking. She has already gone to Mr. Yan to ask about this matter." At this time, Wen Nuan got up and went out. Han Qian ignored him. He couldn't leave such a big person behind. He took a deep breath, clapped his hands, and said loudly, "The workload has been heavy recently, and everyone is very tired. Sister Yang doesn't want you to work so hard, but this is the company's decision. I will go to the finance department to fight to get the bonus promised a while ago." Everyone was not energetic. They had heard this more than 20 times and no longer had any hope for Han Qian. After waiting for a long time without seeing Yang Lan come back, Han Qian turned around and left the general department to find the finance manager. The finance manager looked at Han Qian coming through the glass door and quickly told everyone to be mentally prepared. He pushed the door open in front of him, narrowed his eyes and smiled. "Manager Wang. Look, I've been in the company for so long and I haven't had much conversation with you, right?" Wang Shusan forced a smile and said softly, "Qian, it's not that brother Wang doesn't agree with you. I don't dare to approve this without Mr. Yan and Vice President Gao's note. You told me about this a month ago. I was bracing for being scolded by Mr. Yan. I asked about the risk, but the answer was just 2 words, no." Han Qian chuckled. "I know you feel aggrieved, brother Wang. In this case, you can calculate for me how many months my salary has not been paid. Well, Qian, your salary doesn't belong to us, don't smash it. I'll calculate it for you." Seeing Han Qian pick up his favorite teacup, Wang Shusan had no choice but to bite the bullet and figure it out. Now who doesn't know that Han Qian and Mr. Yan belong to the same family and are the nephews of Director Qian? Even if the company belongs to his family, it doesn't matter. No one objected. After calculating 3 months' salary, Wang Shusan raised his head. "Qian, the total is 2,135. I just asked the Human Resources Department. Manager Song over there has gone home to raise his baby. You have been working for a total of 17 days, and you have only been late and left early for 2 days. Han Qian scratched his head and asked softly, "Is it so little? I remember that I am very diligent. In this case, Song Jing is not in the company anyway. If you give me 117 days, 4 months, my monthly salary should be more than 4,000. Give me one just RMB 10,000, no change required. Is the money in the drawer? I'll take it myself." Wang Shusan definitely couldn't agree. After about 10 minutes, Han Jian wiped his sweat and left the finance department in rough clothes, leaving Wang Shushan with messy hair and torn-off buttons. Lao Wang didn't dare to delay and took out his phone to call the general manager. Lamented. "Mr. Yan, I quit. I have never been so wronged. Mr. Han came to my place just now and insisted on calculating 4 months' salary. I didn't give it, and he beat me up. I quit, I resign." Yan total. Yan Qingqing covered her head weakly, closed her eyes and said in a deep voice. "You can go to work with peace of mind. I'll ask him to apologize to you later." After finishing his words, he hung up the phone and looked up at Wen Nuan and Cai Qinghu. Yan Qingqing sighed feebly again. Han Qian went to the finance department and grabbed 10,000 yuan and left. "Oh my god, what should you two do? He is short of money." Cai Qinghu was sitting on the sofa, and Wen Wen was doing her manicure with nail polish. At first, Cai Qinghu refused, but Wen Wen grabbed her finger and chewed off the manicure. Looking at Wen Wen's clumsy way, Cai Qinghu frowning. "Short of money? I gave him 10,000 yuan during the Mid-Autumn Festival. He has nothing to spend money on lately, right?" Nuan put Cai Qinghu's hand into the phototherapy machine and said softly. "The members of the general department are noisy and work too hard. He probably used the money to give them bonuses to prevent employees from getting negative. You are the same, Yan Qingqing. Why are you squeezing the general department when you have nothing to do?" Yan Qingqing frowned. "You don't need to worry about my company. Just don't ruin Qinghu's nails." "Hey! Yang Jia! Yang Jia!" Little Yang Jia opened the door and exposed half of her body. Yan Qingqing frowned and looked at Yang Jia and said angrily. "I get angry when I see you. Look at Yeji, your brother Qian's secretary. He can be considered a secretary. Forget it for your day. I'm too lazy to talk to you. Send these 10,000 yuan to the finance department to Wang manager." Little Yang Jia trotted forward, took the money, turned around and ran away. When she went out, she dropped the snacks in her pocket on the ground. Just as she was about to pick them up, she heard Mr. Yan gritting his teeth about the business, so little Yang Jia ran away. Ever since she saw Yeji working as Han Qian's secretary, Yan Qingqing has been thinking about how to get upset. Why can't she meet such a smart person? In fact, she likes Xiao Yang Jia very much, but she is still jealous of Han Qian. Yan Qingqing sighed and lay on the table. "What should I do with this money-spreading boy? You said it's fine if he spends it on himself, why are he just thinking about giving it away?" When Nuan looked at Cai Qinghu's fingers, then slowly raised his head to look at Cai Qinghu, and noticed the expression on his face. The next second Wen got up and ran away. Cai Qinghu climbed over the sofa, grabbed Nuan Wen's back collar, and dragged him back to the sofa. He pressed her on the sofa and faced her buttocks. "Slap," said angrily. "You ruined the manicure on my hands, which cost more than $1,000, but now what is this? You know I had a manicure, but you thought I touched the paint with my fingers." Nuan gave up her resistance and lay down on the sofa and said calmly. "Han Qian spends money on himself? Don't think about it. We have lived together for 3 years. The month he spent the most was 15 yuan, buying a flower pot for the flowers he raised and some fish food. Now you can't see him spending money on himself, right? I forgot to mention that yesterday I bought Yates a car, which cost 1.5 million. Yan Qingqing frowned and stood up, then lay down on the table and said helplessly. "It's normal to buy a car. Now Yates works part-time as a driver and secretary. The BMW has poor performance and looks ugly. What should Han Qian do about this problem of giving away money?" Cai Qinghu grabbed his warm hand and pressed it on the table to do her manicure, and said calmly. "Giving money? What's wrong? If he didn't have this problem, how could you sit here and show off your power? Don't think that you can't eat the cake without others seeing it. I feel that my husband is a very good husband and has a kind heart. If you can't accept it, quit early. I say goodbye to warmth 1. When Nuan narrowed his eyes and smiled. I won't break up with you. Cai Kinghu's manicure skills were not very good, but Madame Cai's talent for drawing was good. After a while, she drew a poop on Nuan Wen's finger. When Nuan looked at Cai Kinghu in astonishment and tilted her head. What's wrong with you? Lady Cai narrowed her eyes and smiled. Yes. I miss my husband-in-law so much. No, I can't play with you two anymore. I want to go find my husband-in-law. As soon as he left, Nuan stretched out his hand and grabbed Cai Kinghu's hair and said angrily. Leave. I'll give you a manicure. You can't go anywhere. Nuan, don't harm me, do it for Yan Ching Ching. She cut her hair very short to prevent me from causing trouble. I'll take you to Ji Jing. Aunt Ji is too gentle. She doesn't want to be bullied. You are the most arrogant. Sit down. In terms of strength, Cai Kinghu, who had training experience, couldn't compare to Wen. He didn't eat so much for nothing. Yan Qingqing looked at the two people messing around, lowered her head and drew circles on the table, and whispered. Do you think Han Qian and I will have a Chinese-style wedding or a Western-style wedding? Nuan turned around and said. Let's get married, Yan Qingqing, commit suicide. In the general department, Han Qian gave Yang Lan 10,000 yuan and told her that it was given by Mr. Yan. As for the bonus, it was up to him to give it to Qianwan and Sul Yang. Mr. Yan would prepare extra for them. Lan asked with a frown. I asked Mr. Yan just now, and Mr. Yan said there is no such thing. She's teasing you. Everyone has it, and so do you. Sister Yang, stay away from Wang Shushan when you see him recently. This old man is trying to get away with things. After finishing his words, Han Qian left the office, approached Sul Yang and smiled. Liang don't be so mean, I'm very busy. I won't take any personal work. Let's go to Yezai Pavilion to shoot arrows. After saying this, both Yao Shui and Qianwan looked at Han Qian. Qianwan had already stood up and walked towards them. Sul Yang narrowed his eyes and smiled. No. Mr. Yan has told me that I can't play any dangerous projects with you. Qian if you're okay, help me make this form. Just when Han Qian was about to agree, Wu Sijuan called. Han Qian, are you busy? I have a few friends I want to introduce to you, and I also plan to play your own role in the play. Han Qian frowned and replied. Who is it? With such a big wrist. Wei Ju. My senior is also the most powerful actor at the moment. Wei Ju. Han Qian knows this person. It can be said that Wu Qingxi is the most popular actor at the moment, but Wu Qingxi lacks 2 vocabulary words compared to him. Be dedicated and make money.